Not everybody, Neal Coolong, has the thrill of a lifetime of having their West Coast trip going to Seattle timed up with a Super Bowl parade, but that is my life.
It's perfect, right? And that's exactly how it should be. You can blend multiple pleasures at once on business and the enjoyment of watching clearly the better team celebrate their well-earned championship.
I think there's an excellent chance, just so you know, that I probably will be getting lunch.
Lunch is good. Is that going to be on Mike McDonald? I think he made quite a bit of money last night.
He did. And I want to start with this. How interesting is it? Because I know they did it fewer than any other team in the NFL, so I already know what the stats are. But Mike McDonald, not one time in the game, went for it on fourth down. He took the points when he had a chance to take the points because I think he knew what he had.
The funny thing about that is it's funny in multiple ways, I guess. But one, yes, absolutely, that's true. You did not see him need to go for it on fourth down. I think any competent coach would have looked at that game, would have looked the way his defense was playing and said, I don't need to push anything. I don't need to give up yards. Punting is going to be a legitimate weapon in this game, to say nothing of the fact that the Seahawks punter, clearly the best in the game, made a reasonable argument for the MVP. And really, yes. I don't know if we've seen a punting performance better than that in a Super Bowl. Things that nobody will ever talk about or want to know. But a phenomenal job from Dixon last night. Again, clearly the best punter in the NFL. They got a lot of run out of that. That gives you confidence, especially with a defense that's playing as well as Seattle's was from start to finish in that game. From an analytics perspective, this completely depends on how you want to look at it. And there are, you think of it like AI applications. There are several of them. They're not all the same thing. They're different brands. They're different products. Whichever analytics outlet you want to look at, the ones that I have seen and reviewed all said they did the right thing every fourth down situation they had where kicking was an option. So obviously, they punted every time. All of those decisions were the ones that analytics favored more than perhaps being more aggressive. In a way, Steve, I almost feel like it was a nod from the football gods to all of us that don't want to have to hyperanalyze years of data in order to make one conclusion that is not factoring in opponent, location, weight and magnitude of game, anything like that. He was able to, very simply follow what was common sense, I think, in any of those situations.
Yes.
I never sat and thought you should go for it. That thought didn't even occur to me. I didn't even realize it until after the game.
Yeah.
The common sense decision was made. And while the analytics did support it, I do feel it's instructive to note there wasn't any, our game plan all week was we were going to be aggressive and blah, blah, blah. All of these things that create more risk than they do advantageous positions for your team, in my opinion. Football is a per-play game. The cumulative effect, in my opinion, is not the accurate perspective. Baseball, I feel that can be a lot more true, a lot more fair overall, because baseball is much more of a static game. It's a series of individual actions and matchups. You can only throw so many pitches. Guy can only swing a bat this way. The ball can only go certain places on the field. Football, there are myriad things that can happen through 11 moving parts working in concert but not together to achieve a certain result. So looking purely at past results to analyze what you should do in the next moment doesn't take into account the direct opposition, in which that doesn't exist in baseball. There's one guy throwing the ball and that's it. Every other part in the game is irrelevant. So you can't lean into analytics and say history tells us that this is what they should do and this is the percentage based on that, because it's not rooted in things that are directly tangible in that moment. I'm not trying to nerd out here, but that's just always the way that I've seen it. It's a good guide to help set you up, But when you go for it on fourth down, it should be, I have a great play to go against a legitimate matchup on my side that's going to work because of this and that. And if it doesn't work, I'm okay with the field position that I'm not gaining from this. So we'll take the risk. That makes it worth it. Mm-hmm. Past results are not likely to show that exact scenario, or you're not able to really delve into the data enough to show that exact scenario unless it happened earlier in the game. And as we know, the game corrects itself. It's fluid. They're probably going to change something in that situation if it worked for you the last time. So it's too dynamic. Too many different things happen. In this case, I think overall, you can look at Mike McDonald and just say he went into the game a favorite. I said last week I was surprised it was only 4.5 points. And I think that is truly the Patriot way. More people just said, well, despite everything that we know about the game, everything we can see about these teams, we still think the Patriots might have a shot. I think they'll battle and they'll eventually cover something, a little bit shorter. This will be a tight game. All these things that clearly did not happen. Seattle was the better team from start to finish. He knew that. He was not going to take chances on anything that might skew that advantage for him a little bit.
No question. What's interesting, because I'm a big believer in time, score, and situation. That's why I'm not a big believer in going for it on fourth down in the first half unless it's fourth and a half yard or a yard or something like that. The first half, take the points, kind of build a margin, then help you make decisions in the second half. That's how I always look at it when I'm broadcasting a game. With that said, it's 19-6 when New England finally scores a touchdown. Mike Vrabel, now time, score, and situation, needs to go for two there. I mean, that decision baffled me a little bit because, hey, the math tells me I need to go for two, and he didn't do it. And I was, they're not going to win the game. You and I both know that. But, you still think you can win it, and you didn't do it there.
That's one of those situations where, as a reporter, I would wonder that. If it met the level of something that I would want to write about, I'd have to ask him about it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to ask afterward at a press conference why he didn't go for two in a game that he ended up losing 29-13 anyway, and really had massive problems moving the ball. I mean, even that touchdown, you got the only two, literally, in my opinion, the only two good throws Drake made in that game were back-to-back that led to that touchdown.
Yep.
Not probably since Kerry Collins against the Ravens, one of the best defenses in the history of the NFL. Not since then, in my opinion, have we seen a quarterback play as badly as he did.
Yep.
So it makes me kind of wonder, is that why they didn't? They're not. Seattle's going to load the box. They're very confident in their coverage ability. New England is not all that confident in their ability to rush for 2 yards in this situation. I wonder if that wasn't it. Otherwise, I think it's probably more, we're just getting points on the board. We know where we're going to need to go, but it does stand into contrast. The general idea, and this has come out more and more lately, that in a situation like that, you go for two because you want to know what you're going to need to do in the future.
Yeah.
And that gives you more opportunity, more time to plan, more time to kind of take a look at this thing or that thing, other situations that are similar that might come up to see where you might have an advantage so you can call a better play the next time when you're going to need the two for sure. In my opinion, that's what he should have done, what he ought to have done. I wonder if he even really thought about it.
I agree.
It just seemed kind of odd. You really should go for that, and that's not a numbers dork thing. That's not a heavy analytics.
Right.
Just logically, you need a two at some point. In my opinion, when you need multiple twos, you have to go for it the first opportunity that you get because you have to see what you need to do in the future.
Right.
Just for that reason alone, it makes sense statistically, and it makes sense physically. You want to see what the other team is going to put out there. I don't know. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it didn't seem like New England played short yardage a whole lot. They certainly didn't play goal line a whole lot. So we don't know what they might have had planned. We don't know if they had anything that they felt stacked up. I would hope an NFL coach is not throwing up his hands and saying, we can't play goal line against these guys. We'll never win. So we're not going for two in the Super Bowl. I don't think that was the case. So I wonder what happened, but That's a tough one to ask. That's one maybe you look over to the veteran reporter who's no doubt in the room and hope that he asks for you.
Well, the question would have been, Mike, you scored the touchdown to make it 19-6. Did you consider going for 2? And if not, why the extra point? I think I would have asked it that way because when the drive started, they're down 19-0. So you're down 3 possessions. I score a touchdown. It's 19-6. I'm now down 2 possessions. Extra point, I'm still down 2 possessions. I need touchdowns. 19-8, I'm still down 2 possessions, but now one of them can be a field goal if I make it to go with a touchdown to tie. So I'm just looking, for me, time score situation was, 10, 11 minutes to go in the game. I'm looking at the math of it as to what's my easiest path, and I think he took the more difficult path. That's what I thought.
I agree 100%. That's what I thought at the time, and I can't help but feel that's probably what he was told to do as well by anybody, advising on those things during the game. I can't find, in my mind, I can't find a rational reason why he wouldn't have. For the same reasons you just laid out. They go through every scenario and every situation for every game. A 2 point to go down 11 is 100% of the time. You're going to do that regardless of anything else, because of the time situation, metric that you had mentioned. That scenario, obviously, you plan to succeed. That's what you need at that point in the game. So you have to call that because you need that extra point, because you need it to be a 2-possession game with a field goal, especially today when they're routinely hitting 57, 58-yard field goals. That, and with the kickoff rules, that forces them to kick off, which you have a good return game. The Patriots have excelled in that area all season. You can very easily set up a situation in which you need one 15-yard pass and maybe not even a timeout to get your field goal unit on the field. So at that point, it comes down to you need a stop and a touchdown, another stop and gets the ball back. That's a much more plausible situation, regardless how it turned out, because I don't think they gained a yard again. It was something other than a Drake May minus 1 yard pass behind the line of scrimmage. But I'm sure Vrabel knew that. But either way, you've got to go for 2 in that situation. I don't know why he might not have done that. I don't think there was a particular injury. I will say, though, that if anything, it was a pretty damning comment on the complete and total lack of protection that they had the entire game. Something that we knew was a problem with the Patriots before everyone was talking about how great they are and how good of a coach Vrabel is. This is a team, I'm sorry, it's at least a year away going into these playoffs. And they caught a fortuitous run of luck that the likes of which the NFL has never seen. And that's not hyperbole. We have never seen a team with a weaker regular season schedule advance to the Super Bowl. Right. We have never seen a team play a backup quarterback making the first start of his season in a conference championship game. Yep. These things don't happen. I'm not going to say there's a reason it didn't happen. And no, it's not the Patriots' problem. It's not their fault. They didn't do anything. But that does kind of lead you to think maybe this team isn't as good as where they are right now. Flip it around, though, and this is perhaps more compelling. Seattle shouldn't have been questioned for their greatness. That's an excellent football team.
Yes, it is.
They were good in every phase throughout the playoffs. They beat a very good Rams team, probably the second best team in football, in my opinion. And yes, that includes a healthy Bo Nix and the Broncos. They beat them 2 of 3. Yeah. And that's with the full arsenal of everything that they have. The Rams being who they are, that was a close competitive game. But Seattle won that pretty clearly.
Yes, they did.
And again, they beat them 2 of 3, and the one the Rams won was probably more on Seattle not winning it than anything else. Seattle was just head and shoulders the better team. Yep. For the Patriots to come in and not take that more aggressive mentality simply because, well, we don't belong here. We're going to have to find a way to steal points, to steal possessions, whatever we can do. And I felt defensively they had that up front. They were doing a great job with their pass rush, but let's be honest, they were 3 plays of Christian Gonzalez's life away from a complete massacre. Yep. I mean, that game should not have been as close as it was, and it wasn't close. So you really saw a disparate level between the two teams, and the Patriots kind of became what I felt, and we talked about this last week, what I felt should have been a bigger talking point.
Yes.
NFL history does not show examples of what the Patriots have done, and I mean this with all respect, but it's not because of how good they are, it's because of how bad everybody they played was.
Yes.
And it's true, and we saw that on display in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Look, high draft picks, last place schedule. I mean, there's a lot of things and it turned out, it worked out for them, and they got there. Now, whether they can get back is to me, I think is a long shot. But this also leads us into one of your favorite times of the year, Combine, looking at personnel, free agency. Why is this one of your favorite times?
What I like about this time of the year is you have kind of enough separation from the grind of the day-to-day. Now, you know this, even at the college level, that is far more restricted in terms of media access. You know that there is a rhythm, there's a pattern that you get into week to week to week to week. You kind of get hypnotized by it after a while. Depending on who you're covering, odds are good your team isn't going to a championship game unless you've covered New England for the last 20 years.
Right.
Other than that, and to some degree Kansas City, there's a break in between the routine that you're used to in season. But at the end of the season, it really is kind of like a new semester in school. Now your schedule changes. You're in different places. You're doing different things. There's something that's so refreshing about that. And it's also got this wonderful way of kind of segmenting it out. And the NFL has set its schedule up to do this. It puts a major tentpole event in each month because it wants to dominate headlines at certain points for as much of it as it can. It's trying really hard with the Combine. I'm not sure that's the man's favorite event, but I don't know what else there is to do in February for them beyond the Super Bowl that they've pushed deeper into the month. Since I probably started this rant, they have something for all fans to be able to hit the reset button and just say, and that this is, credit to Pete Rozelle, this is the greatest trait the NFL has had over its professional sports counterparts. They can make the argument that every year your team has some hope. Maybe not necessarily to win a Super Bowl, though I might argue, you look at this year's participants, that optimism is there to greatly overachieve the next year. It just takes a couple moves. It just takes a couple players. These things falling in line, and your kind of, intoxication with the newness of what's happening, the new information that's going to come out, the what if, the delicious what if that fans absolutely love. You get to speculate on that and not have your spirit, your enthusiasm dampened by a terrible loss at Cleveland in Week 16. Yeah. You don't have to mire in the minutia of a bad season anymore. Now it's about the draft. Now you can start being talked into. Maybe this player's a lot better than you think he is, and other people are saying the same thing. So the conversation is much more positive. It's much more fun. And from a news perspective, the rush of all the information that's out there, getting it, being able to make connections to it, write about that, and really feel like you can kind of see what they're doing and be able to explain that. Yep. I've never gotten over that. That's what really got me into this business more than anything. Yep. I'll be honest, I feel bad saying this because I don't want to rake anybody out, but there was a point as a young buck, I really was annoyed with the lack of league coverage coming from the local Pittsburgh media outlets.
Yeah. To
a point, and I'm not going to name names, one of the beat writers was on vacation at the start of free agency one year. I'm like, I don't understand. What do you mean you're on vacation? This is not when you go on vacation. And the reason everybody would tell you is, well, because the Steelers never do anything in free agency. Like, they don't need to sign somebody, but their players are going to sign.
Yeah.
Their rivals are going to sign guys. What else happens around the league? This whole thing is really small. There are a lot of components that come into this. And it's all interconnected. It's all intertwined. You want to know what everybody else is doing. That's how you really find out the most that you can about your team. Question what else they're doing. I was addicted to that. I was one of the people that they hated. I dominated chat room questions. I overwhelmed them with my rebuttal to whatever that they said. I drove them nuts. I was that guy. And then after a bit, I was like, you know what? If they're not going to do it, I'm going to do it. So I started writing stuff. And to be honest with you, that more than anything else, more than a degree, more than experience, that's what got me anywhere as far as a career goes. And I don't know how far down the line I am with that, but I was a part of that initial blog revolution, way back in the day when blogs were the new cutting edge thing. It was a collection of people that had a much deeper interest in the topic than, in my opinion, beat reporters did. They didn't have to do all that much because why? There's no competition. Right. Now, pat myself on the back. We got more traffic than the outlets in Pittsburgh did. More people read our stuff than read theirs. Yeah. And it's mostly because we went into the details. And it was done at a time of the year where it felt like, okay, I'm over how last season ended. This is how we're going to move forward now. This is what the team should do. This is what I think they can do. We understood the rules of the salary cap. That was not something that beat reporters did. They just kind of went by whatever the team told them to do. And I'm sure they missed those days. They had to learn it because we knew it. We knew it backwards and forwards. And it's because that information was not readily available to people. So somebody got the idea. They're going to publish the rules. They're going to talk about it, show other people how it works. That empowered other, quote unquote, amateur reporters. These things matter to the team. This is going to show you what they're looking to do because they usually spend about this much. They're usually about this far away from the top of the cap. The cap is going to be this. Do you remember? There was a time where you might not have even known what the league salary cap was until like the start of free agency.
Yep.